I'm just a patriot, trying to have my voice heard and talk about how to fix this country. I just ask everybody not to be a sheep and think for yourself. Hello everyone, my name's Aaron Teskey, and this is the Teskey Daily Report. For those of you watching, just before we get started, I would love to get feedback to topics that you guys would like to see me talk about. Just email the link below. You can try me on Facebook or YouTube as well, and the comments would probably work best, but you can go ahead and message me also. Alright, anyways, diving right in. So, the other night on the 2020 Democrat debate, the opioid crisis in America was a very hot topic. Now, there's one important factor here. Do you want to know what the point of this whole decriminalizing agenda is? It's simply to segue the government into having the ability to get its hands into the drug game with the citizens' consent. They see these cartels making billions of dollars, transporting it over the borders. They simply want to get their hands on that kind of money. Now, you may find yourself just wondering, how does that make sense exactly? I will elaborate further in this video. Now, anyways, I cannot find a clip of the entire response that I'm looking for, but Democrat runner Andrew Yang was asked about his previous support for decriminalizing opioids for personal use, including heroin. His response was, and I quote, verbatim, you can look it up yourself, "We need to decriminalize opiates for personal use. We need to let this country know that this is not a personal failing. This was a systematic government failing." He then went on to say, "Then we must open up safe consumption and safe injection sites around the country because they save lives." He then added that we have to recognize addiction as a disease caused by capitalism run amok. Just for those of you that aren't sure, because I'd never heard of this guy before the last debate, here's a picture of that idiot. Yes, that's the fool that said all that insane nonsense. Now, I'm going to dissect that response as a former drug addict of many substances and tell you why it's absolute bullshit. Yes, there was more to his statement, but it really has nothing to do with my video. It started to touch more on the lawsuits we are seeing against the opioid manufacturers. His first statement from the word go was flawed to begin with. We need to decriminalize opiates for personal use. That is the stupidest fucking thing I've ever heard. All that's going to do is make it easier for the junkie to get their fix. It will make street prices plummet overnight, just like the legalization of marijuana in Colorado did to the weed prices on the street. Now, of course, there's the argument of, oh, but if you get rid of the stigma, it will make it less appealing, making people not want to do it. A lot of people try to use Portugal for this example, because they decriminalized all narcotics in 2001. Well, check it out. They only have a population of just over 10 million people. And there's a lot of other research and facts that nobody ever brings up that would need to come into play long before you could compare one country's success to another country's ability to succeed in the same process. One, how many general drug addicts were there per capita in their population in comparison to the United States? That'd be the huge factor. Not to mention, I don't know much about Portugal. How ready available was any narcotic that a person could want at any given time on the street there? How well did it flow in? What kind of variety did they have? Was it just one or two things? I mean, I'll tell you right now, I haven't done drugs in years, but I'll walk right out on the street. If I try hard enough, I'd get anything from weed to crack to meth to heroin to to ecstasy to acid to mushrooms to DMT to 2CB, 2CA, you name it, I could go find it. It's everywhere in the United States. Sorry, I wanted to go ahead and kill that bit of that argument before I moved on. So anyways, now for perhaps the idea of removing the stigma would work for future generations 30, 40 years down the road, this may have some effect after the current drug users basically die off. But have you ever shot up? All an addict is going to think is, hell yeah, one less crime to worry about. Trust me, they're not going to give a shit or think, oh geez, it's legal, time to quit and get clean. No, that's not how drugs work. There will also be an overnight influx of overdoses immediately. There's a lot of bad dope running the streets these days. Shit isn't even heroin anymore. Half of it's cut with unpredictable amounts of fentanyl or elephant tranquilizers, causing the unprecedented amount of overdoses that we're seeing as it is. Perfect example here. A good friend of mine, I've talked about him on here before, overdosed on 0.2 of a gram of shot of black recently. Now we're talking about a very experienced drug addict who knows his limits. He just got a bad batch of dope. He's still alive and currently off the heroin. But if you legalize it and prices drop, consequently people buy more and shoot up more, consequently more overdoses. That's just his first sentence, and what's wrong with it in the real realm of the drug game. Now the second statement I want to dissect. He states, we need to let this country know this is not a personal failing. This was a systematic government failing. I agree and disagree here. It's no secret that the government has allowed the continual push of overprescribing opiates to patients. But now, I've done a lot of drugs in my day and known a lot of junkies, alright? I literally don't know anybody that started their drug use via being legitimately prescribed them beyond what they may have needed for an injury. You know, maybe somebody went in with a broken arm or got their teeth worked on and they got a little pill of Vicodin, and by the time we all shared it, everybody only snorted like 2 or 3 of them anyways. So, I don't really count that. It was mostly people who enjoyed buying and using painkillers recreationally. That recreational use eventually became a habit that they couldn't kick because they started to get dope sick. Eventually the pills run out and heroin is stronger, cheaper, and once you meet the right people, much easier to get. So they supplement the heroin in place of the pills, and then they're really in trouble. When what the Democrats want you to picture is little old Grandma Irene over there, who's been overprescribed opiates for 10 years, who is legitimately one of the victims of circumstances. But what they don't tell you is Grandma Irene is the biggest hustler on the block. One, she's old school. She has no interest in taking anything anyways. And she isn't stupid. Instead, she sells her whole script and pays her rent. My wife will tell you that the best plugs she ever had before heroin was little old ladies for her pills. Me, I was an upper guy, so that was more her area of expertise. Alright, now for the third part of his statement. He said, then we must open up safe consumption and safe injection sites around the country because they save lives. For the record, they tried that shit here in Denver. Thankfully, the liberal sheep here aren't that blind yet, so it wasn't approved. This is a huge crock. All a safe injection site does
is allow a place for people to congregate to meet new plugs, connections, etc. It also creates the possibility for increased violent crimes in the area, because if someone who is hurting knows they can go to this part of town and rob someone, even if it's just for a little bit of dope, to stop that hurting, oh, trust me, they fucking will. You cannot fully understand the extent an addict will go to just to chase that dragon, unless you've been one yourself. Now, this also paves the way for an instant rise in crime for the entire area near the injection site. Because, one, dealers will start posting up in that general vicinity because they can just make a bunch of money real quick. So, consequently, you will see a rise in things such as robberies, burglaries, shoplifting, gift card theft, car theft, etc., condensed into those areas as more people flock there, doing whatever is necessary to get the money for their dope. Not to mention the increase in homeless population, because a lot of junkies are homeless. Why would they not post up close by to where they can, one, get their shit, two, use it? Alright everyone, I apologize for the interruption. We will pick up tomorrow right where I left off today. I strive to bring you information in short periods of time, just trying to keep it that way. Please catch part 2 as soon as it's up.
I'm just a patriot, trying to have my voice heard and talk about how to fix this country. I just ask everybody not to be a sheep and think for yourself.